Greetings, stalkers, and welcome back to the Grim Mansion. I am your pale host, Weird Aldrich, and I am joined by
Abominathan, your multi-shaded host.
Tonight we bring you what could perhaps become a modern body horror classic.
Kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about this in particular, but I'm glad you brought it up.
You're welcome.
Tonight we talk about The Substance. And so our candles are lit, the circles have been closed, and the words of power have been recited. Let us begin tonight's gathering. What can you tell us about this movie, Nathan?
Okay, so we can say that this is a indie-ish movie because it was produced by Mubi, directed by Coralie.
Me, that's French.
Coralie Fargo. I don't know, something like that.
Okay, it's French, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Pardon our French, but
yeah, starring Demi Moore as the lead, and I guess Margaret Qualley as the other lead.
we're gonna quickly find out that they play the same character in a way.
Yeah, so
Right, let's just
yeah,
go
let's
ahead
just-
and talk about it.
It's hard to introduce this one without actually starting
Mhm.
to talk about it. The movie starts by introducing the main character, Elizabeth Sparkle, who is a show host, celebrity, supermodel, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, while she is still hosting an aerobics class for TV, sort of think Carmen Electra kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She is past her prime. She's like the movie starts on her 50th birthday.
Yeah, and this guy who, in my notes, I call him Vince McMahon because
Vince McMahon, definitely a Vince McMahon type of character.
he's the producer, I guess, or the CEO of this company
Yeah, the producer of the show, definitely.
Yeah. that she hosts. And he's basically looking for a replacement for her. Basically, he's like
She's
we
too
need somebody.
old.
Yeah.
She can't even have children. Probably back when they recorded King Kong for the first time. He's making all sorts of degrading jokes about her, not to her, but she is listening in.
Yeah, he's super sexist and just and all that stuff. Yeah, and so we see that she's having essentially a midlife crisis, but like an extreme version of that because it's her career that's at stake essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in this vulnerable state that so she has even a car crash and goes to the emergency room.
Yeah, after being fired on her birthday lunch with the producer.
Yeah, she goes to the emergency room, and there's this this nurse who, when the two of them are alone, he is sort of pinching her and then sneakily hands her a USB drive with just called The Substance, and then with
A note that says it changed my life. Now,
Yeah.
it is of note that this man is chiseled to perfection. He's like blue eyes. He's a stereotypical. Why is this man a nurse? Why is he not? Why isn't he a model? You know.
Okay.
I'm just. It's important.
Yes, it is. But like, at
it's
this point in the
important
movie,
to mention that.
I didn't even notice that at this point, but whatever. Okay.
Well, but in hindsight, you can you can understand how important it is. This bit of foreshadowing, I guess. Anyway, while she's home, she decides to put the USB drive on her TV, and she sees this ad for a substance essentially called The Substance.
Which is honestly the most unimaginative name, but okay.
It sounds like a government experiment on its own people, and why even bother to name it, right?
I
But
guess yeah, it's like a code name, yeah.
yeah,
Maybe.
it
But it's
promises
still
to make
secret. It's almost like a
yes,
mafia kind of thing. It
yeah.
feels very just like super secretive.
Hmm.
They don't even like she I think this is pretty much the next plot point is she calls the number, right? I don't think there's like I think like there's some other stuff that happens in between, but I don't think it matters that much.
Well, essentially, I was just going to explain that the substance promises to make a better version of yourself. It's like it's younger, more beautiful, more perfect. Their words. I'm quoting here. And at first, she takes it as a like a sort of,
Like a
I don't
scam.
know if a joke or a scam, maybe, perhaps because she discards it. But the next day, after she got drunk all by herself, she decided to give them a call. And the voice on the other end, it's just very, it's the same voice as the commercial that's explaining everything.
And it's like monotone. It's like very it's very like FBI thing. It's like very just like yeah, it's weird. But
Yeah, the guy asks for her address and gives her one back, essentially.
mhm.
The next day, she receives a package with a key card. And when she gets to this place, it has the same symbol as the substance. It's like a logo, like it's I don't even know. Whatever. She just swipes it. It's an alley. Imagine an alley full of graffitis, all tagged, and even the name of the warehouse where she's at. It's tagged on the wall. She swipes her card. The door doesn't even open fully. She has to crouch to get through it.
Yep.
And inside, it's again looks like a government facility, all very sterile, all white, full of lockers, but only two numbers. There's a 20 whatever and a 503, which is
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Inside, there's a package that's for her. And once she opens it inside of her house, the package has three layers. And the first one is the activator, which is supposed to be of a single use and to be discarded. This will activate her DNA. The second is the stabilizer for the other self, as they're being described. The activator was for the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And the stabilizer is for the other self to use every day.
Yep.
And then there's food for the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of rules that
there's
you want to explain.
Yeah. So instead of like instructions as you would normally have, like one sheet that you unfold and have like in like 50 different languages.
The
No.
explanation for everything.
Yeah. There's basically 4 cards. And it's written out in this like bold, like sans serif font. And it just the first one just says, you activate only once. You stabilize every day. You
That's the
switch.
second one.
Yeah, that's the second one.
The
Third one
third
says,
one.
you switch every 7 days.
No exceptions.
No exceptions. And then the last one just says, remember you are one. And that's it. That's all the instructions she gets.
And these words echo in her head as she eventually activates a matrix in the bathroom by injecting the substance into her arm. And expecting immediate results, she gets disappointed, but only for a split second, because as soon as she moves her head from the mirror, it starts kicking in. And this is when things get stop being weird and begin start being freaky.
Yeah, bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she falls on the floor, she starts like spazzing out. Her pupils split.
Yeah, her eyes are like a nasal color, and a blue one forms.
Yeah, a bunch of eyes start like
It's just
growing
one.
inside
Just
of her
one.
socket.
It's just the one. For now.
I remember several, but whatever.
It's just one. It shows up several times. It's like it's waddling in there with the other one.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Guess I misunderstood that. Yeah, and her spine splits open from the middle, basically from her neck down to her hips, and a form starts growing out of her.
Yeah, essentially coming out of her body is a new person. And we get this POV shot of a foggy, hazy person trying to get up and looking at themselves in the mirror.
it's like a when like the baby
Yeah, like a
like a baby
birth,
starts like starts like seeing for the
taking
first
its
time
first
and the
steps.
but it's a fully grown human
Woman.
adult woman, yes.
This is essentially, well, essentially, this is the other self, Elizabeth's other self. This is the girl later to be known as Sue. I guess we can introduce her right
Yeah.
now. But she is apparently everything that Elizabeth could have been. This
Yeah.
is something that was inside of her all this time, and the substance merely brought it out, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, supposedly it's like imagine if every bad gene, everything that just
That you don't
was
like about yourself.
yeah, you just ditch all of those genes and you replace them with the best possible version of that gene, I guess. I honestly I don't even know what that means, but I mean I guess it's fiction, so uh there's always something better out there, but whatever. We're not going to discuss that yet. She decides to create this entire persona of Sue, this good-looking, charming, like kind of innocent, kind of
Quite honestly, perfect.
yeah, the perfect version. She buys like some clothes, and she decides to present herself as a candidate for the replacement for Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I guess she really likes her old job, huh? And she's accepted pretty much like automatically. I mean, they probably don't even look at any other candidates. They're just like, yeah, it's this one. Perfect. They're like flabbergasted almost. Like it's just the Sue is just it's like so perfect that her presence is imposing in everyone who is in the room with her. Like it's just yeah, it's
You know the type of woman that turns heads? She's portrayed to be this.
it turns bodies.
Yeah,
It turns
she breaks
legs
she doesn't turn heads, she breaks necks. It's the kind of,
and spines apparently.
yeah. Anyway, she's given an immediate show. All the other girls are sent home. Nobody cares about them. Vince McMahon, we shouldn't call him Vince McMahon, honestly.
It is basically him though.
But it like I cannot stress how these two look alike. Dennis Quaid's wardrobing and characterization is just perfect to describe him as such. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Regardless, sorry, I'm kind of lost in my notes. She accepts the job of having the new show on one condition: every other week she must leave to take care of her very very sick mother. And this is how she essentially is going to make an excuse to switch every other week for the substance, between
Oh
her
yeah.
other self and the Matrix.
Yeah. We see exactly how that procedure works. So she has to take like this. Yeah, it's a lumbar puncture looking needle to essentially take out part of the spinal fluid and then inject herself with that. And that's how she stabilizes. And we don't really know exactly what this means at this point. We just know that if she doesn't stabilize, blood starts coming out of her nose. She starts losing her hearing. Something starts happening, and it's bad. And she starts like getting like
Essentially, the
pain.
substance. What is implied is that the substance requires something from the Matrix in order to
Yeah,
stabilize and function properly. Otherwise, it just degenerates and dies.
yeah. That's. I mean, this isn't even. It's not even explained what happens. But yeah, we know it's bad, and she has to stabilize every day. So that's the requirement.
So essentially, yeah, the days go by and she doesn't even realize it. Their time is up before she knows it.
Mhm.
And to switch back up, they need to perform a sort of blood transfusion.
It's really weird. Like they have to put these kind of like it's like an IV, but like in both directions.
Hmm.
Put one side on the matrix, other side on the alter self, and then the two bloods just switch slowly.
Yeah, when they touch, their consciousness apparently
Oh, let's
swaps
also mention
places.
mention that she had to so she had to sew back of the matrix body, her old body. She had to sew
Mm,
back in
yeah,
and like mend the spine back to what it was. Um, yeah, I also don't really know how that's gonna work, but whatever.
Yeah, because when
Like,
Elizabeth wakes up, she's in all sorts of pain,
yeah, yeah, makes
and
sense.
her days are spent just procuring food for the for Sue
Yeah,
and
yeah,
for
she's
herself.
she's
Uh,
essentially she's become a her life is now
every other 7 days, Elizabeth lives just to exist, waiting
yeah,
for the next week to come, so she can live as Sue.
yeah,
It all comes to a halt, so to speak, between them, between Elizabeth and Sue, when in one day, one night actually, after bringing home a boy, Sue, who starts destabilizing, decides to extract just a little bit more
um
of Elizabeth's juice
because
to stabilize for a few hours.
because she basically needed she stretched a little bit over the 7 days, just a
Hmm.
little bit, so she had yeah.
A few hours, so to speak. Anyway, this is when the hallucinations start creeping in. She sees herself growing like a bunch of organs that fall out of her bodysuit when once the guy she's making out with opens it.
Yeah, I don't really know what that's
What
supposed
that
to
was about, yeah.
yeah, but basically so now when she's back on Elizabeth, the Matrix, the old self, whatever you want to call it, um she it takes a while to notice, but she notices that her index finger is not normal. It's altered. It's been it's now like greenish and with like a and longer than it's supposed to be, thicker than it's supposed to be. That sounds weird. I
It's
don't know.
grown wizened and old. This
Yeah,
is when she decides to call the number, saying that,
there have been some
there's been a misuse of the substance, and she would like to know how to reverse it. The guy just tells her straight up that there's no going back. What was taken from one place cannot be given back.
yeah.
You need to respect the balance. And this is the moment when Elizabeth starts treating Sue as she. The voice reminds her,
Yeah,
"You are one."
you are one.
And things start to escalate between them. Essentially, as Elizabeth is trying to find herself, and she decides to give an old friend that she met on the day of the accident. She decides to give them a call to set up a date because the guy said how she was the most beautiful girl in the whole
Yeah,
world.
it seemed like, I mean, it obviously wasn't the only guy. Like, honestly, Elizabeth had, and this is going to be important like later on. Elizabeth had a lot of fans. I mean, obviously because, she was a superstar. And so yeah, this guy was probably maybe her biggest fan, possibly, I don't know. Maybe not the biggest. I mean, it's kind of
They
hard
were
to.
together in were in school together. That's how they met.
Yeah.
So it goes even further back than her being famous.
Yeah, but yeah. But this is probably like one of the few people who actually like her for who she is, and not
Yeah,
because of looks or
not
whatever.
exactly, not
Even
because
though
she was
she
famous.
honestly,
Exactly,
even though she honestly is pretty good looking.
she is a beautiful woman.
Yeah. So even
Let's
like,
not kid ourselves.
yeah, whatever.
But because of this new body of hers, she starts having doubts about her own appearance.
Yeah, there's
Um,
essentially like body dysmorphia, but like to an extreme extent because you physically have two bodies, so it's like way worse, and she can't get herself out of the house because this dysmorphia or dysphoria, I don't know which term to use.
every
Um,
time she looks at Sue's billboards, she feels bad about herself, and she starts
yeah,
making, uh, putting on makeup again, or trying a new
yeah,
piece of clothing until she just gives up.
it's the saddest part of the movie, in my opinion. It's just she just essentially ghosts him because she can't get herself to get out of the house and actually have a date. And so, yeah, this solidifies the dynamic of Sue exists because of Elizabeth and is dependent on her, but is robbing Elizabeth of everything that she was. It's essentially becoming a competitor, but like someone that you can't even compete with. While Elizabeth descends further into depression and binge,
Madness, quite frankly.
yeah, and starts trashing their house because they live in the same place. So every time that Sue
Wakes up, she has to clean
arrives,
up the mess.
yeah, because I guess Elizabeth just postpones it up until the last moment. I don't know.
There is one meeting that she has between these exchanges that Elizabeth has, actually, in which, while picking up food for both of them, she walks into a cafe and
Yeah.
meets an old man who asks her, like, is it finally happening to you?
Yeah, so
And she
basically,
realizes that she's talking to the nurse, the
yeah,
old nurse, the matrix of the nurse, that the nurse was another self. And the guy
yeah,
seems to be resentful of his perfect self, of his other self.
yeah.
Like it's eating away at him. And the message, "It changed my life,"
It says,
gains a whole new meaning.
yeah, 7 days is too long. Is a long time. Has she started eating at you? He says, before she basically runs away from the cafe and just leaves a $10 bill. Yep.
But while things as Sue appear to be perfect, she's also starting to experience more and more hallucinations. Like while she's on set twerking her assets.
Yeah,
Um,
probably related to the alterations as well. Just the lack of balance. The balance
yeah.
is yeah,
hmm
not respected and causes this, I guess. I don't know.
There's this something in her leg that seems to pop while she's working, and she
Yeah, she has
panics.
this whole situation when she goes to the restroom and she takes out a full chicken wing through her belly button. Um and apparently this whole thing was a hallucination. I don't yeah. I guess the movie just wanted to show that for whatever reason. While the guys are looking at the recording frame by frame to see the mole in her butt. Um which doesn't happen at all. I mean, she's kind of like when she wakes up from. I guess these are kind of hallucinations or like dreams that she has when she's unconscious during the switch. I think that's what this is supposed to be because when she wakes up as Sue and goes to work, goes to record the session. They're like, well, there is no session. We need to you need to go talk to the boss immediately. And she kind of has this moment when she like isn't really aware, like, did something happen? Did they find out? Like, am I screwed? Um, but then it turns out that no, like this dude is just like super dramatic, and he just wanted to do like a promotion for her and invite her. Like he's like her like our what was it like our approval ratings are through the roof. We need to get you like you need to host something more than this. Like this isn't worthy of you anymore. And so basically they want her to host the New Year's event. I think it's like in 3 or 2 months. And yeah, things seem to be looking up for Sue.
Yeah, with these news, Sue starts getting all sorts of contracts. She's on the cover of Vogue. She's going to appear to here and there, give
Yeah.
interviews, whatever. And she starts taking more and more of Elizabeth without ever going back.
Yeah, because essentially she's a lot more. She doesn't have time anymore to wait 6 days because she's in. Yeah, she's having so many things that she has to do. and she doesn't care anymore. She's like, I'm gonna just use up Elizabeth until the last drop, I guess.
And when Elizabeth finally wakes up, there's a big portion of her that has grown old. She's screaming bloody murder, tries to call the substance guy, and tells him that she's not respecting the balance. And the guy gives her like a sort of ultimatum. Do you want this to end? Do you want to be back just to being yourself again, just you alone?
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth ultimately decides that no, this is not. I can't bring myself
Yeah,
to do so.
she's basically cornered at this point because her life is now dependent on Sue.
Yeah, but her mental state just declines more and more. And as she opens the gift that the team of the show gave her as her goodbye gift, it appears to be a book on French cuisine that Elizabeth is more than happy to spend her days cooking and making an absolute mess of the apartment where they both live.
Yeah, and now Sue has like this revenge, this vendetta towards Elizabeth because of that, and decides to basically completely ignore the balance and just stop switching, and just keep wasting away Elizabeth forever.
She essentially promises herself that she's not going back and starts milking Elizabeth's body for everything it has. Like she starts filling up jars for fluid, storing it probably in the fridge, I guess. But anyway, 3 months pass. Sue is ready for a big debut. Boyfriend is home. They seem to be in a good relationship, and Sue starts destabilizing. Or no, that's not true. She remembers that she has to stabilize.
Yep.
And when she goes to the bathroom,
we forgot to mention that. Meanwhile, she has actually many scenes ago. She has basically reorganized her bathroom, so there's this secret passageway, and that's like basically there's this massive space inside.
There's a secret wall in the bathroom.
Yeah. And that's where she keeps the bodies when she's not using them.
When she grabs the needle to pull the fluid out of Elizabeth, only a black thing comes out of it. It's not the clear liquid that she's used to. Even the zone in which she usually pulls from is now infected and gangrenous almost, and it doesn't look healthy at all. And when she starts destabilizing, she calls the substance, which tells her that time's up. You have juiced it for all it has. You need to give it time to replenish. So you need to go back. There's no other option for you, unless you want to die. And Sue takes the very hard decision to switch back to Elizabeth.
And this is while the boyfriend notices the absence of her in bed and that she's been in the bathroom for a long time, and so he goes check up on her and sees if everything's okay. He even sees like some blood on the floor, and he assumes that she's on her period, even makes a joke about it. But now we see Elizabeth's body and the state that it has become. That
She's a sort of hag.
She's all hunched forward. It's like the Hunchback of Notre Dame mixed with like the goblins from Harry Potter. It's something like that.
She looks like a hag. Her body is completely destroyed.
Yeah, the boyfriend is kind of like, what's happening? Like he's kind of worried about her. And so she's like banging on the door, trying to scare him away. And it works. He just, because he's naked, by the way, he just runs back, grabs his stuff, and then leaves the house butt naked. I don't know how that. I don't know. Just
Elizabeth calls the substance and tells them that it's done. She wants to stop. She runs up to the place to pick up the Terminator and inject it into Sue. It even comes with a little card saying, "We were sorry that you did not enjoy your experience with the substance." Like she's terminating a subscription
Yeah.
service or something. It's ridiculous. This big needle filled with a black liquid that just says termination is injected into Sue, and right into her heart. But Elizabeth still has doubts, and she stops herself before injecting the entire thing into Sue. When she looks into the billboards, like you have to be ready. You have to be ready for our big day.
Hmm.
You need to be pretty for us. Stuff like that. She's
They're
finally
going. Oh,
seeing
and there's the flower bouquet with the signs with the note saying they're going
break
to.
a leg. They're going to love you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she grabs the switch, whatever we're calling it, and tries to swap consciousnesses. And the funniest thing happens, which is they both wake up, almost like a sort of funhouse mirror. They acting in the same way, like
Yeah.
they're the same person, but they look so much different. When Sue notices that the termination needle is on the floor, she freaks the out and goes at Elizabeth. They fight, and eventually Sue kills Elizabeth.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a crippled old version of yourself fighting against a genetically perfect in every way version of
Hmm.
yourself. Like it's a very one-sided fight.
Yeah. Sue does quickly realize, however, how much she needed Elizabeth because during the preparations for the show, she starts to destabilize as her teeth fall off one by one, bloody, and she's screaming in the bathroom in terror as like, how is this happening to me?
Yeah, and meanwhile, the she's just acting like everything's fine. Like she, smiles with her mouth closed to pretend that she has all the teeth. But yeah, she's freaking out. She goes home to try and do something.
Yeah,
Well,
because she remembers that Elizabeth never threw the activator out.
yeah, and she's actually disintegrated. Like her ear falls out. She's
Yeah,
actually like
in the
just like
elevator.
yeah, she's just disintegrating slowly. Yeah, she gets home and
Oh yeah, she activates herself. Let's just cut to the chase. The same thing that would have happened to Elizabeth happened to Sue. However, now we instead of one eye, we see many.
okay, there we go.
And when the new self wakes up and it looks itself into the mirror, we see what the movie describes as Monstro Elisa Sue. It is an abomination of these two women together. There's really no words to explain.
It's fabulous. That's all I'm gonna say.
It is glorious, actually. There's
She has two heads. She has a head in front, a head behind, and
a
lots of
multitude of eyes,
yeah, several eyes, several fingers.
arms.
It's
Yeah.
see, this is the superior version of herself in my
Yes.
eyes at least.
Hmm.
But
Agreed.
of course, society doesn't really understand, and so and herself. Like I mean, she it's kind of funny the reaction that she has. I don't even know if her like I think she's kind of gone insane at this point
Yes,
because
definitely.
she puts like an earring in one of the I guess the lumps of her side of their head that kind of look like an ear.
And you're,
She puts a dress on. She ironically goes get the old picture of Elizabeth and cuts out her face and puts like on her
lipstick over it and tapes
Yeah.
it over her face. Yes.
and so she decides to go to the event like this.
And everybody's waiting for her. She hallucinates with a hallway full of people clapping for her. The halls that once had Elizabeth's pictures, she's now parading through them as people applaud her and saying that she's going to do great. Once she gets to the stage and the hallucination ends,
People take a while to understand what the is
what's
happening.
going on? Yeah, yeah.
It's funny to see the reactions of all the other dancers
Hmm.
and the public.
People
Um,
only actually seem to realize that something is very wrong when one of the mouths in their body seems to spit out a tit.
yeah, that's the best way I could put it. Um,
Yeah.
and then it always starts with one. So one girl starts screaming, another guy starts screaming, and the entire thing erupts in horror and people calling and say kill the monster while she is desperately talking to the mic in a completely distorted, just weird voice, trying to say like it's me, I'm Sue, I'm Elizabeth. People obviously don't believe it, or maybe some do. I don't know. There might be some old users of the substance in the crowd. Who knows? But yeah, a guy like grabs I think it's a bat or like a crowbar and like hits her, and her head explodes. Things grow. I guess more heads or something
Mm-hmm.
grows from the neck, and she starts spewing torrents of blood towards it. Fill
Becomes
like
a very
basically,
exploitation kind of movie at the moment.
I guess, just filling the entire theater with blood as our Vince McMahon character is
Obviously not getting anything from his shareholders this time around.
yeah, is frozen, just trying to think like what, just trying to understand what the fuck is happening. Uh,
He made her he built her to perfection.
yep.
Anyway,
Uh,
she
yeah,
flees the
and
studio in a
yeah,
panic towards the
it's interesting.
streets.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would have, if I was making this movie, I would have cut right here. But no, the movie continues.
She attempts to flee the scene. Her
Mhm.
body is breaking down. It breaks off at almost every piece, until eventually only Elizabeth's face is left in like a sort of amoeba of flesh.
It's like an octopus thing or like a starfish thing with the
Yeah, a
fins
starfish
coming
I think is
across.
more appropriate because it actually manages to crawl up until Elizabeth's star in the Walk of Fame, where
Hmm.
the movie opened. And that's exactly where it dies, hallucinating that it's seeing glitter of gold
I
falling
guess
on
she's
it.
yeah, I guess she's remembering the good old days,
Hmm.
and I guess she's dying, feeling some kind of, I don't know. I don't know if the movie's trying to end in a hopeful note or if it's just like irony.
I
Uh,
think so. I think it's irony because what happens to her?
she dissolves
Yeah,
into
she
the
breaks
floor.
down into a puddle of goo that is cleaned up by a
Yep,
machine the next morning.
yep,
So it's like it's a parallel to the guy that dropped the ketchup all over her star.
yeah,
There's no difference between that ketchup and Elizabeth.
yeah.
Anyway, that is how the movie ends. We actually made it very short because the movie is like two hours and something. It's a very
Yeah,
long movie.
but like that's the thing. Like, and I guess we can go straight
Hmm.
into analysis because that's the thing about the movie is that it's I'm
The way it
honestly,
builds tension is by dragging out every scene.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, it's not necessarily that it's bad cinematography because I think the cinematography is actually pretty good, but it's really not my kind of thing. I guess it's not my thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not really the thing that I'm into.
Yeah, you want to get to the point.
It's the very, I guess it's the most like contemporary type of cinematography where yeah, you have just like these very like, how do we even explain it? It's like kind of like Wes Anderson style shots when like the camera is always like at the like eye level with the actors and like parallel to the walls, um or like seen from like straight down. You have a bunch of these shots, which are, I mean, it's a choice, but at sometimes it really, or I should say most of it, feels kind of like a commercial or like a reality show, and I think it's intentional.
It's
It's
like
kind of,
one of those Adult Swim infomercials.
yeah, like everything is so polished, is so clean, even blood, even like when it's like a disgusting scene that we're seeing, like all the lighting is like in place, and it's it's weird. It's I guess that's what they're trying to do, is it trying to create this this kind of just uncanny valley kind of thing, where it's like something that's like gruesome and horrible is being shot as if it was like a supermodel. Yeah.
Hmm. Because the
With
movie
like,
focuses a lot on that, right? On
yeah.
the aspect of the objectification of the body of a woman.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I would have liked if the movie touched a little more on the. I guess it was trying to do that, but I guess it wasn't really. I would have liked to see it explore more the idea of the fact that beauty and perfection ends up being a curse. It ends up being something that is exploited by people and by society, and that is just it's a prison ultimately.
One could argue that the movie is about that,
In a way, but
very overtly, actually. I don't know how much more they could touch on it.
maybe I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe some of the irony maybe passed over my head. I don't know. I think the movie uses a lot of that, just like the
I think it, especially in the character of Vince McMahon,
still don't want to.
the entire body of people that surround him, his entourage, the shareholders, his investors, they're just
super cartoony as well. Honestly,
yes, they're all in tuxedos. They're all white men, and they do not speak.
yeah. This
They
is why I compared it to like Wes Anderson stuff, because sometimes it really feels like that, just like super.
the shots, and I understand what
No,
you
but
mean.
but even the characters, the way that they
Mhm.
move and talk, like this guy, it's like yeah. We compare him to Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon, when he's in, in the ring, he's also kind of playing a character which is himself, and like
Well, according to more recent news, apparently he was just playing himself.
yeah, but it's like this exaggerated like
Yeah,
corporate
yeah,
executive
yeah.
horrible person that likes being horrible.
Cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, exactly, and in a way, like, yeah, that's, I guess that's the point. Personally, it's, again, it's not really my kind of. I feel like I guess it's the irony that's really missing me, because it's two different tones that are like mushed together. This like cartoony, like over the top spectacle thing, and then the horrifying body, like the body horror, genetics, amalgamation thing, and the two together is a weird combination that maybe it's interesting. I've never seen it done like this.
And it's so such obvious a topic, isn't it? Body
Yeah,
horror should go hand in hand with stuff with this super modeling world, right? Of very
yeah,
famous people who essentially dictate what the rest of women should look like.
yeah. Like, you can pretty easily see what the point of the movie is, like what point they're trying to make. Pretty much off the bat, you already know. So it
There are
does that well.
obviously there are other comparisons that we can make, such as drugs, for example. But let's
Or
not
like
get
To
into
Deal with
those.
the
Like,
Devil. Other, yeah,
yeah,
there's other, like, this is, you compared it, and I think it's a good comparison with the Portrait of Dorian Gray. And
yeah,
at
yeah. I
this,
don't think it was my comparison, but
yeah, but it's
yes, whatever.
it's yeah, in a way it is sort of a modern retelling of it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
Definitely
of. It's a little different, but the plot, but yeah, it's that I appreciate that
the
that
comparison.
that homage, I guess,
Mm.
to, even if it wasn't intentional. Maybe it wasn't intentional, or maybe it was intentional. I don't know. Yeah, definitely very interesting.
You don't need to be a genius to know that that is what the movie was at heart. It was made with this in mind.
Yeah,
Um, it is simultaneously an homage to stuff that came before it, as you were saying, the, the Portrait of Dorian Gray, and even stuff like The Fly.
hmm,
The movie itself is very Cronenbergian
yeah,
with its body horror and the way that presents it, but it clearly fits or tries to fit into a feminist narrative, like critiquing these ridiculous standards that women put themselves to. With modern day social media, and not even modern day. She's 50. This goes way back.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
was probably doing this sort of aerobics and inspiring, quote unquote, women to look like her
And
during the
yeah,
VHS era.
and I think you touch on a good point here, which is also that yeah, it's the expectation, and as technology progresses and as we are, because this kind of exploitation goes back as far as like humanity exists.
Yeah, but the standards have changed.
Yeah, the standards have increased, yes, but what I was gonna get to is, as technology progresses and media become more defined, more polished, and we have access to more people, we see more people than our than previous generations. The standards keep getting higher, and they get so high to a point where to meet the standard you require the most advanced technology. And I think that's also one of the things that this movie is trying to one of the
Body
messages.
modification, definitely.
Yeah, it's the idea that
The
in order to fit,
Botoxes, the
yeah,
implants.
of course nowadays you have the digital stuff. People,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't even get out of their house, so you just have the digital modifications to your face.
Airbrushings and
Yeah,
filters. I
yeah,
heard
and
you talk
it's
about once.
yeah, I'm honestly not sure what those are, but I do hear that people sometimes don't use them, which means that they normally use them. So yeah, but I have seen some stuff. I have
Yeah,
seen
and
some
even
crazy shit.
even the choice of actress. Demi Moore is, as we mentioned before, and I will keep mentioning to the end of my life, Demi Moore is a beautiful woman.
Yeah, and
20 years ago, 30 years ago, she was still a beautiful woman. And the fact that even she herself is being used here, first of all, there's no coincidence, but in the movie that even a woman that receives so much praise as herself can be destroyed by mean comments. She's holding herself to a very high regard, or to very high standards, I should
Mhm.
say. And it eludes me how can a person like this could suffer from any sort of lack of confidence. I understand that you are not in your prime anymore. That is what humanity does to you. I'm sorry, but
That's it.
still, it
I think that really is the issue, is that the substance, it might make you a perfect version um in the eyes of humanity, but you still have your humanity, and that is the problem.
in the end, that's what caused the rift between Sue
Yeah.
and Elizabeth. It's that the greed, the coveting the other person's life,
Hmm.
the jealousy, envy. Even though it is you in that body, it is your consciousness. It is a perfect, not even a clone. It's just another version of you.
As we're talking, I'm sort of like unlocking new things about the movie that I didn't
Interpretations.
think of before. That is a really good point. Is imagine this as metaphor for somebody who is beautiful. You have the outside, which is Sue, is the body, and Elizabeth is the mind. So imagine when, like, you as a person, you are one, but you have multiple. People only see your outside. If they only care about it, obviously. And so if you are like a beautiful person, like a supermodel or whatever, and like your life is about your everything
Appearances.
else,
Yeah.
everything else about you, like who you are inside, takes a set, like it goes behind the curtain. It never appears. It's like Elizabeth, sitting alone and in her room, eating until she passes out, and screaming like, "I'm the reason you exist." But people don't see her. She becomes
Mhm.
invisible. So that's an interesting way of looking at this. It's like Elizabeth is the mind, the matrix. Interesting that
Elizabeth
they use
is what Sue sees when she looks herself into the mirror.
and is Sue on the inside as well. It's it.
No, but thinking of a more metaphorical terms, with if you're talking about body
Okay.
this dysphoria, what you were
Okay.
saying is
Okay.
that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you would have someone like Sue, but when she looks into the mirror, she would see Elizabeth.
Yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a way because this happens in real life with
Mm-hmm.
people. That's what
Yeah.
yeah, that's what body dysphoria dysmorphia is. Um,
Dysphoria or dysmorphia?
I feel like it's not the same thing. I think dysmorphia is when you
Body dysmorphic disorder is
there we
the
go.
mental dysmorphobia.
Yeah, that
Dysmorphia.
this I think it's this bodies or at least that's how I say it. Maybe it's not the correct term. I don't know. Um, But yeah, I guess this movie is trying to also explain or put into a metaphor how that is like. Really, really representing that feeling of the body dysmorphia and also this idea that it's like a prison. Like you have no choice. You're stuck in this loop where your physical appearance, your body is getting all the attention and you're dependent on. I mean, it's what gives you money if you're a model or a movie star or whatever, and sort of everything else about you, all your aspirations, your dreams, your philosophy and just who you are as a person, your soul is being sort of shriveled because you're exploiting it, like you're using up all the energy for your body and your mind is just left to rot. At least that's how I see it.
Oh yeah, but it is a very interesting movie with a lot of layers. I think we could be talking about it and everything that it has to unpack for quite some time, honestly. And when I said that at the beginning, it could turn into a modern day body horror classic. I really hope so. I really like the movie. I like the way that it's bringing a new take and a fresh take into like a more mainstream audience on body horror topics, body horror flicks that we don't get very often. When's the last time you saw a good body horror movie? You know, probably have to go back to.
The Thing.
I wanted to say the Human Centipede.
We should review that one too, or maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. No, I just wanted to say, give my final thoughts, I guess, and that is, don't seek this abstract thing that is perfection, that is the perfection of your body or any body for that matter. And like don't be constrained by what even your own genetics determines or doesn't determine. Only you know what your perfect of yourself is. And you should strive to go towards it.
Yeah, go and find it. Well said.
Even if it means snatching bodies and replacing parts.
Very well said. I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna be bold with it. 8 needles
8 needles.
out of 10
Okay.
stars.
I agree.
All right. And with that, the candles are out, the circles have been erased, and we will let silence reign again. Remansion is closing its gates. Have a horrible night, and until we meet again.